Hello and welcome to my review of the Eversor Assassin. This is probably my favourite assassin out of all four of them, with the Vindicate Assassin coming a very close second. Very close. And that's because this assassin can blow himself up. I've got two versions of the Eversor Assassin here. The old one from about 20 years ago, it's in metal and only consists of one part, which is just his rifle. And the newer one here from the Execution box set, but you can still get him separately. He will cost you £19. Now, the other assassins, I think £19 is hit or miss. It would have been preferred if they're sort of £15, but they do have kind of scenic bases. But this Eversor Assassin, definitely you get your money's worth with this big bit of scenery. And look at that pose. I mean, come on. He's just held up. Defying the laws of gravity there by wall running and firing the needler rifle with his claw outstretched. Oh, he's got a bit of a wonk. I think I've bent that somehow. Probably running too fast that he's bent that. But anyway, back to the model itself. I think it's really cool looking model in this body glove like the other assassins are. I got this skull mask. He's got all of his stims and things there, look, that are injected into him. He's got a little bit of a backpack, power pack thing, with a light. You've got to have a light on there. With this big blade, I'm thinking it's some kind of power blade. He's got little bits of armor plating there and some pouches and some more stimulants, I want to say. The needler pistol is absolutely fantastic. It's got a bit of a scope on it and a bolt gun part to it, and this injector part on the tip, with a long magazine too. I love the kind of active pose that this model gives, and I'd really like the scenic base too. I think what I might do is I might rip him off of this base and put him on one of those city bases or sort of underground bases, because that would work better than this bit of scenery just out in the open on a brown base. But we'll see. I'll see what I can do with that. Anyway, this is my poorly painted from 20 years ago. He just doesn't look very good at all. I might just scrap that face and paint over the white and put some red glowing eyes instead. But I did redo him a few years ago. But yeah, pretty bad. Anyway, that's that assassin, the Eversor Assassin. What I'll just do is show you some size comparisons, go through some lore, which is a new thing for these review videos, and then I will go through all of his 8th edition rules, which you'll find in the March's edition of the White Dwarf magazine. That's the main reason I'm doing these reviews, and if you're watching this video, I probably did these reviews a few weeks ago, so thank you for your patience anyway. Let's firstly compare him to a load of other assassins. So the tallest assassin I can find is the Calidus. She's very tall on this base. Stunning action pose again. You've got the Vindicate Assassin, which is he's just chilling out. I think he's a little bit taller than the Eversor, just with the weapon. And then finally the Calexus, which is probably, I'd say, the smallest out of all of them, maybe. Yeah. So that's where the Eversor stacks up. Probably the second biggest, tallest out of all of them, and then next to a couple of other Imperial models. So you've got a Space Marine on the right and the Intercessor on the left. Overall, he is taller. He's on his base than an Intercessor, and taller than a Space Marine. So if he's going against some Intercessors, which, you know, is could be possible, you never know, they might have gone rogue, you know, that's cool for you, but still, you know, he's still going to create that presence around sort of 5 of them, but 10 of them he's going to be a bit swamped. Anyway, that's where he stacks up in the grand scheme of things, size of things. Let me just unload on you some of the lore and things surrounding this awesome looking Eversor Assassin. It's possibly the most gruesome weapon of the Officio Assassinorum. The Temple specialises in shock and terror tactics. They instill fear of imperial retribution into the hearts and minds of all who hold positions of power. They're primarily used against rebels who have plans to move against the Imperium with large armed force. The Eversor distills the brute force of an entire strike team into a single human body, and hence rarely has just a single target. Mission will be to rip out heart of the rebel operation, wreaking havoc and destruction. It's basically a superhuman killing machine. Their bodies are driven far beyond normal human capabilities. In order to be kept from constantly committing grievous acts of carnage, they are kept in cryosuspension until they're required for a mission, basically a cryocrypt. They're transferred from the cryocrypt to a special drop pod. Neuralinks feed the details of the mission to them during their cryosuspension, and then the pod is launched at the target planet. A bit like Predator. That's the kind of image I get of that drop pod breaching the atmosphere and then releasing this creature. Then when the pod impacts, the assassin is fully awake and ready to begin the mission. They may have spent years or centuries in the frozen state, but they'll be psyched up and ready to satiate their desire to slaughter enemies of the Imperium. They use bolt shells and toxin needles from the executioner pistol, stabbing thrust of the power sword, and hypodermic incisors and shock generators built into their neuro gauntlet, melter bomb blasts, throat crushing punches, and whatever else is to hand. The foe is rarely aware that they're even under an attack. The Medicus adepts at the Eversor Temple, they're constantly adapting a special program of genetics, bioimplants and chemical boosters that enhances the assassin's body far beyond what a normal human could achieve. The novitiate assassin undergoes endoskeletal restructuring, increasing the stamina and aerobatic performance and allowing them to fight for days without tiring. Muscular hypertrophy enables assassins to explode into a fury of activity that lasts for hours at a time, and of course they're given a second heart, a bit like a space marine. This gives the assassin extra survivability should one heart be damaged, but it also ensures they are really driving their body to the limits. Both hearts can kick in, maintain an excessively high heart rate demanded by a frantic killing frenzy. Awesome. You know, your heart is very good anyway. From very early on in the womb, it starts beating and it continues to beat, touch wood hopefully, for the rest of your life. It never stops. From that very first moment through to when you're born, and then all through your life. You know, average life expectancy is what, 73, 74 for a male in this country, or is always working. That muscle never stops. It's absolutely fantastic. This guy gets 2 of them, which means that his body is so much more efficient and can pump that oxygenated blood around and all the drugs around a lot quicker. The cerebral cortex is enhanced by genetically coded lobo chips, which amplify an assassin's state of mind. It turns dislike into raging hatred, and adrenal ducts are implanted and electro elixirs injected, which speeds up the brain's higher functions. A bit like me when I've had a coffee. Many assassins die on the operating table. Of course they do, like all the other assassins. That's what I say signing up for, that's what you're inducted into. And there are unforeseen side effects to many of those complex bioenhancements. This is one of my favourite parts of this assassin, is when the assassin's hearts stop or the brain fails, there are concoctions inside them which will react at a rapidly accelerating rate, which basically means that they spontaneously combust with an explosive force that their bio-meltdown can kill those standing nearby. And it's not something that they resent, for they'll use any weapon they can in the violent quest. And of course, you know, they are a living weapon, but in death they become a dying weapon too. So that's why they're, you know, extremely formidable opponents, in that even if you kill one, most likely going to take you with it. Again, this Predator reference, that he has this little nuclear bomb on his wrist, so when he dies he, you know, kills everything around him. Okay, let me go through all of his 8th edition rules then. So he is an elite choice and he's a power points cost of a 5. He's only a points cost of 85, which is brilliant. His movement is 7 inches, weapon skill and ballistic skill both 2+, strength 4, toughness 4, 6 wounds, 6 attacks, leadership 9 and a save of 6+. That's the best stat line of any of the assassins, I'll tell you right now. I think his Either his toughness should have been 5 or his strength should have been 5, but that's the only sort of minor, very minor change I'd take. Maybe his speed could be movement 8 inches as well, but there we go. I think that's still a solid stat line, and it's the best one out of all the assassins. The Eversor Assassin is a single model armed with 1 executioner pistol, 1 Euro gauntlet, 1 power sword, and melter bombs. The executioner pistol. It's a 12-inch pistol 4, strength 4, AP -1, damage 1 weapon. You can re-roll wound rolls for attacks made with this weapon that target infantry units. That's pretty good. You know, it's a strength 4 weapon. It's not like the Vindica where you're wounding on 2+, and it's got an incredible armor penetration. It's just a pistol 4 weapon that you can re-roll attacks. That's all. His main strength lies in his close combat anyway. So the Neuro Gauntlet, it's a melee weapon. It's a strength +1, so that gives him strength 5, AP -1, and damage 1. You can reroll wound rolls made for attacks with this weapon. That's good because his strength is only 5 with it, but it is only armor penetration -1, so not the best. However, he does have this power sword, which, yeah, it's a strength 4, so strength of the user, AP -3 and damage 1. So that's a little bit better in that you're forgoing the re-rolling wounds, but you are getting a better armor penetration. And then Melter Bomb, it's a 4-inch grenade 1, strength 8, AP -4, and damage of D6. You can also re-roll wound rolls for attacks made with this weapon that target vehicle units. So actually it's pretty formidable against vehicles. Abilities: Execution Force, Independent Operative, and Lightning Reflexes. I've gone through them with the other assassins, and I'm definitely going to go through them again with this Eversor Assassin. So, Execution Force, so long as your Warlord has the Imperium keyword, you can include this unit in your army as part of your Vanguard detachment, even if that detachment contains no HQ units. However, if you do so, that detachment's command benefits are changed to none, unless that detachment contains exactly 1 Vindica Assassin, 1 Calidus, 1 Eversor, and 1 Calexis Assassin. Independent Operative. The model can never have a Warlord trait. During deployment, you can set this model up in concealment instead of placing it on the battlefield, and at the end of any of your movement phases, the model can reveal its position, set it up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away from enemy models. And then Lightning Reflexes is, of course, means he's got a 4+ invulnerable save, which is pretty good considering he's got 6 wounds as well. He's got 4 unique abilities, so not as many as the Vindica, which has 5, but more than the Calidus, and the same number as the Calexis. So, bio-meltdown. If this model is reduced to 0 wounds, roll a d6 for each enemy unit that is within 6 inches of this model before removing it from the battlefield. On a 4+, the enemy unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. Pretty good. So that's a d6 for each enemy unit within 6 inches of him. And then 50-50, potentially you're going to get d3 mortal wounds. So very, very effective even after he dies. Sentinel Array. Each time an enemy unit falls back whilst within 1 inch of this model can immediately make a shooting attack against that enemy unit as if it were its shooting phase. So that's okay. You know, you're gonna be getting 4 shots or throwing that grenade. Friends on, not friend zone, but friends on. When making a charge roll for this model, roll 3d6 rather than 2d6. In addition, add 2 to this model's attack characteristic if it charged in the preceding charge phase. There you go. He's got 6 attacks normally, now he gets 8 attacks. Killing Rampage. Each time an enemy model is slain as a result of an attack made with a melee weapon by this model can immediately make 1 additional attack against the same unit. These additional attacks cannot themselves generate further attacks. In addition, this model can consolidate up to 6 inches instead of up to 3 inches. So that's pretty good. With 8 attacks, you're most likely going to be slaying a model, and then you're going to be getting another attack. So they can keep... So 8 attacks, say you get 3 kills, you've then got another 3 attacks. So you launch him into a squad of 15 or 10 normal troops, he's going to make mincemeat out of them. The keywords: Imperium, Officio Assassinorum, Infantry Character, Eversor Assassin. So there you go, that's my review of the Eversor Assassin. I think he's very, very strong. His melee weapons, the Neuro Gauntlet is quite decent in that it's a strength 5 and you can reroll wounds. The Power Sword has that better armor penetration. I would have preferred something with armor penetration of -4. It's great that he can split his attacks, obviously with the Neuro Gauntlet and the Power Sword. I would have liked something in terms of mortal wounds. Maybe he can do 1 mortal wound of damage when he's you know, in a group of more than 10 models. That would have been an excellent thing. Like, he just unleashes his rage. Maybe he's got a certain stimulant or something that you know, has that fury, like a cornered animal kind of melee attack or ability. That would have been an additional thing. Much like I talked about the Calidus having an additional ability for her. But it is what it is. He's as fast as all the others. He's got his 6 wounds. He's got his 4+ invulnerable. His pistol is a bit weak, but you can re-roll wounds anyway with it. And his melee weapons aren't as strong as you'd kind of want. He can charge a great distance, and he can blow up and cause those mortal wounds. And that's what you want to be doing with this assassin. You want to be placing him somewhere, popping him out, and then attacking big squishy units. It might not be worth attacking like a squad of Terminators, because they all have a number of wounds, and they have some very decent attacks, and they have their invulnerable saves as well. So it might come a bit unstuck against you know, sort of 5 Terminators or so, but against your regular troops and even some characters, he's going to put up a very decent fight. But for characters, if you were choosing between him and the Vindica, I'd go for the Vindica every time, and stick him, you know, 72 inches away from a character and blast their head off. Anyway, that is my review of the Eversor Assassin. What do you guys think of the model? This one, obviously not my terrible painting. Please do put it in the comments below. It'd be great to hear from you. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Emperor Protects.